the Nuggets could not stay in front of Orlando's ball handlers at all.
Mm-hmm.
They were just allowing paint touches over and over and over, whether that was Cole Anthony, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs. Everybody was getting to the basket, and then that's how you pile up points. Like, I don't understand fully how the Magic went from, is their offense going to just destroy them and hold them back, to like they're putting up 110 plus on good teams all of a sudden. But here we are. In the past 2 weeks, the Magic are 13th on offense, which is a little better than their overall mark. So they're headed in the right direction. And then on the other end, you just saw the length and physicality and honestly like strength of the Magic defense give Denver problems, without that two-man game to go to, when it's just Jokic spraying passes to cutters and shooters. He's been frustrated a lot during this stretch, Jokic, like not putting great effort in defensively, not really looking to score as much as maybe he could to just will his team to a win. And when he's kind of playing that way and they're not, in a good rhythm, the Magic were able to stifle them pretty consistently. There's a lot of funky lineups they're using, and, Jonathan Isaac doing his thing and everything else. Jalen Suggs getting into a fight with Jokic. They're just a pain in the ass to deal with. And when you also can't guard them, the game is over. Like, that's it. If you're not going to make their offense work hard, you're going to lose to the Magic. That's where we're at, because their defense is going to give them a chance to win every game. And that's what happened. The Nuggets lost a high-scoring game to a team that they should easily be able to outscore. In this case, they didn't.
Their defense is just outrageous. Like, they're in every single game because the defense is that good. And the fact that they're doing this, Brendon, the defense has remained as good as it has without, like, Wendell Carter Jr., and they're putting in centers that I think long-term they might look to improve on in some way, or probably aren't long-term cogs for this franchise, and Goga and Mo Wagner, unless Mo Wagner is going to be, like, the brother, like, kind of hangs around because like in the brother tax.
Yeah, he might get to stay on the team, but we'll see what his minutes look like.
Better than Thanasis, at least, though. Gotta say,
yeah.
At least you could play him.
No, Wagner's a good backup big, I think. But yeah, I think Batadze, he wasn't even playing before this, so yeah, they're doing this without many of and Fultz, who's their best point of attack defender.
The fact that all of this is happening, their defense is just going to keep them in games, and if the offense like. It's simple, and I don't think it's sustainable for them to win in a big way. It's like one of the evolutions that I think we're going to need to see with them. But like if you go against Denver and you have Paolo and Franz do what they do, and maybe that's enough on certain, that can get you some. That can maybe sneak. That's going to make you an annoying out just because you have those two guys. The Celtics, Brendon, win for me was an outrageous defensive performance in a very similar way. You look at the game details in that game. Boston's offense this year has been incredible. Boston's offensive rating in that game, 94. 90-fucking-4. That's like 1990s basketball number. That's with a free throw rate like in the top like an insanely good 36 free throw rate in that game. Like they just took a ton of free throws. Didn't matter. Offensive rebounds stifled. Turned the ball over like averagely. They just got stops. They held the Celtics down in the half court in that game. The Celtics half court offensive rating in that game 79.4. That's in the bottom 10% of things this year. They just stifled them in that sense at the rim, in the mid-range, on long mid-range, from three. Like just that defensive performance every night is stifling. It makes you want more, and for me, it just makes me continually just want more from the offense. It makes me just feel like there's something here if you can fully just unlock the offense in a real way.
Well, so
beyond
to that point,
the Denver part of it.
I think that they're playing with much better pace lately in general. I think that that's been one of the key things that you're seeing, and I hate to try to pin it to somebody. Maybe it's not even fair to do it, but it's in my head. I'm already halfway through the sentence. I think it has to do with Markelle Fultz. Like, I just think when you have one player who is best orchestrating a very deliberate set on every possession, it's the Chris Paul curse, right? It's not that different from that, where when you play that way, you're going to play slower. And it doesn't just mean pace, like how many possessions per game or the, offensive seconds to shot or any of those metrics. It's just even in the quicker semi-transition, let's just go moments well, it's going to have to be, let me get a guy to set a screen and I'm going to snake around and then maybe I'll find Paolo on the wing and then he'll settle into a high post thing. And now it's 8 seconds left, right? But when you don't have Fultz out there and when you have, I think Suggs getting the ball in his hands a little bit more, I think him knowing kind of the rules of engagement when it's Paolo or Franz handling and when to cut and how to be effective there. And Cole Anthony, who deserves a huge amount of credit and I think should be, I've seen some whispers of this online, like he should be a 6 man of the year candidate, like a real one, somebody who should actually, maybe be in the lead in that category. I guess Chris Paul would probably have to be up there too right now. But when all those guys are playing more and the offense is settling into a better groove, I think that goes a really, really long way. And they closed with Cole Anthony in that Denver game. They closed with Cole, Suggs, Paolo, Franz, and I believe Batadze, but it might have been Wagner, either way. And I want them to do that more. Like, that's what we talked about early in the season, and I kind of regretted, like, being so harsh on it, but it's like, we're not saying make a huge trade. It's just spread the minutes around in a way that makes a little bit more sense. It's not that different from what we were talking about with Indiana. It's like, let Cole Anthony try it, like let Anthony Black close some of these games, even when Fultz is back, if he's the better option. Like, I don't think you should force feed Ingles and Harris minutes.
No.
Because maybe that's to the detriment of your team overall. That gets back to the Jabari Smith conversation we were having, but it's like, there's combinations here that are already working on both ends of the court. The bench lineup, led by Cole Anthony right now, is plus 13 net rating in 115 minutes. That's Anthony, Harris, Ingles, Isaac, Wagner. That lineup just eats teams alive. It's like crazy on defense because of Jonathan Isaac, but then it's spaced out to the max, and it's just, running up and down the court like crazy. Just lean into what's working, I think would be the message for me. And Jalen Suggs is getting everybody's attention. I just want to say, the original flag we planted before this season was on Jalen Suggs' island, and it never has been pulled out of the mud. It's been there the whole time.
Despite, every time I see him, Brendon, you got to shave it, my guy. It's time. He's got to do it.
It is time, but, he's feeling good. Maybe it's similar. They're on a win streak. Maybe it's like the baseball guys who don't shave their beards. Maybe he was just about to. You never know. And then they started winning, and he said, never mind, I'll wait.
Maybe. Here, the last thing on the Magic. Brendon, their recipe right now, and this defense first, suffocating, just enough scoring, how they keep the defense intact while doing, I think, necessary roster improvements to get the most out of the offense and evolve this team. It's one of my 3 favorite questions to think about in the league right now.
It's going to determine how far they go this season. The defense is even 7 points worse per 100 possessions with Cole Anthony on the court. Like,
it's even just
figure
beyond.
It out. You got to find the mix.
Yeah, and it's even, I think, just beyond this year. It's next year and the year after. It's like, as these guys grow up, like how they figure this out, to me, is just, it's one of the going to be the coolest roster building things we can discuss as far as team building goes, I think.
In terms of their recipe, what you were saying, let me throw this at you real quick. Pelicans of the East. I know that they're only like 5 miles from New Orleans geographically, but like...
well, it's more than 5 miles, but yeah.
Thank you. I actually thought it was 5, so I appreciate the clarification.
You just like really undersold how far like Louisiana and Florida are. I gotta look this up.
But it's just funny to call New Orleans not the East, but Orlando is, as if it's like some other corner of the world. It's very much the same part of the world.
I mean, the fact that like Memphis is like a Western Conference team is hilarious.
Well, this will get fixed with expansion because they're going to have Vegas and maybe Seattle, and then they'll move Minnesota and Memphis to the East, and that'll get us where we need to go. All right, so Pelicans of the East, they have 2 jumbo creators. They have kind of a hodgepodge at point guard. They are best when their defensive personnel is on the court, but they need to figure out how to make the offense work. And they, can at their best are flying up and down, forcing you into turnovers and getting downhill. When I watch them, I'm like, oh, I've seen this recipe before. I've seen this mix. This is just New Orleans a little younger and a little further east.
And I have less concerns about the durability of the superstars, which is a big deal. Just straight up a big deal.
Yeah, but do you agree with the stylistic premise?
Yeah.
You always want to talk
Yes.
about the health of Zion Williamson. It's like your favorite topic. His name comes up, and you're like,
no.
oh, let me mention that.
How,
I'm asking
okay,
you
but
about
how
their
could it
style.
not? Okay, yes, but how could it not with Zion? Because it's like what has held him back from being what we thought he could be? And it's like I
Yes,
look
of
at Powell.
course
It's like,
it has.
okay.
But I'm talking to you about
It's
the
just-
Orlando Magic.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
not David Griffin's
Okay.
nightmares of Zion tearing in another muscle or something. I'm talking about the Magic, because I think thinking about that template makes it easier to imagine, okay, what do they need to add? Who do they need to get? The players aren't identical, but it starts to make a little more sense. Whereas if you just watch Orlando, sometimes you're like, what is this going to turn into? Whereas if you think about it that way, it's like, oh, it'll look like that.
So who is their CJ McCollum, I guess, is then my question.
Yeah, that's the question, right? I mean, we thought we wanted them to maybe pursue Van Vliet, or could it become Anthony Black? I mean, I don't think he'll ever be as good as CJ, but can he add enough offensive juice to make the other stuff he does good work? I don't know. I think that's their thing, is who's that guy going to be? Or maybe Paolo and Franz have an even higher ceiling as like all-around creators than Ingram and Zion do. Maybe they don't need that guy, but it's a fascinating question.
Yeah, curious to see if Levine stuff with them ever kicks up. I'm kind of not a Levine guy for them, but that's the name.
Levine's
Brendon,
like
just
too
real quick.
much, I think, of that.
Yeah, it's a little too much. It's not enough of. Yeah, it's like it's not enough of like the creation kind of thing CJ can do, where he can like Levine's not gonna slide in and out of that in the way I think I'd want to kind of juice everything else. Brendon, just real quick, can you give me your best guess on how far of the drive it is from Orlando to New Orleans? I got Google Maps up.
This is I'm a Westerner, so just
That's-
I want
that's-
everybody
that's-
to know that this is a pure guess. I'm gonna say 12 hours.
Oh, 9 hours, 16 minutes, 600.
Okay, I was gonna say 10, and then I went over because I didn't want to undershoot. So my first guess was 10. I was close.